What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Technical Fowl podcast. As always, you're joined by the three of us. I'm Jack Anderson. To my right is JP Pusilowski, and to my left is Sanders Oakley. We had a fun day of college football yesterday, and we can't wait to break it down for y'all. But first, how was week one for y'all? Y'all enjoyed it? Feel right?
No, I didn't enjoy it. They're not watching the podcast right now, but some friends scheduled a tee time for golf at 10:30, 30 minutes before the kickoff of week one. And so I missed much of the noon window, and then got sunburned for it, paid the price. I won the golf match, though, so that was good.
Yeah.
But, no, that was not a good start to the day. And then Clemson losing last night was frustrating. But it was a good, I guess it was a good slate of football for everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, just you weren't there to experience it. Sanders, did you enjoy?
I had whoa. Can you turn down? I feel like I'm a little loud.
Now you're chilling.
Okay. Can you turn down my headset then a little bit? Because I'm loud in my ear.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I had a fantastic time. That's better. I had a fantastic time watching football all day, getting to watch the Lee Corso last game day. I had a couple tears in my eyes. Me and Jack disagreed about that. Jack is soulless and didn't cry. I had a couple tears. But no, it was awesome. It was so good to have college football back and be back for real. And I would say that I had a very good day as a fan. State getting the win, Alabama losing. It was a pretty fun day, and then getting to watch other teams and guys that we've talked about for weeks, teams that we've talked about, coaches, players. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy everything kind of crashing and burning around me week one in terms of predictions, but A&M looked pretty good. We got a win. Our transfer wide receivers looked explosive. Thank you all for Mario Craver especially. He looked fantastic. And ready to keep moving. I'm excited for more games today. It is kind of weird. It's not the true week one review because not everything has happened yet. We have two big games still today. And a game tomorrow night too as well, no?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Which is, that's pretty standard. We have for the past couple of years. It was Clemson, I think, 2 years in a row. Did y'all play on the Monday night game, JP? I know it was at least, I think, because you came out to our house for one of those. I don't know if you remember that. That was probably your sophomore year. Duncan's dad came up to watch the game with him, and you came out and brought pizza.
I don't think it was 2 years in a row, but
okay.
Yes, they did play on Monday at least one.
Yeah, that was your sophomore year. I remember that very vividly. I guess that was probably my first memory of you. I haven't thought about that in forever.
Yeah. I know it's the norm, but typically we would reveal our top 25s today, and we can't do that because multiple top 25 teams haven't played yet, so we can't assess them. Lenore Sellers fixed to take his first snap of the season as we speak. He looks pretty good in that uniform.
So good, man.
I'm really glad he got rid of the glasses, regardless of what our comments say.
Yeah, he's introducing the visor. He did not wear a clear visor last year, as far as I know. So, new look for him. Completes his first pass, and it's a first down, and Shane Beamer should be flagged for how far he was on the football field.
Who is that too?
The Southern Miss coach yesterday was all over the field as well. Brody was hype all game, or at least trying to get his team hype, especially as it started going sideways for them. On the docket for today, though, we'll discuss all the big games we talked about in our preview, as well as my two friends here. We'll break down the state game, what they saw, what they liked and didn't like, and then we'll have other takeaways, just any other things any of us saw that stuck out to us. And then we'll have a buy or sell segment to close the show. Just general vibes around. For example, I'll give a sneak peek. Buy or sell Auburn to make the college football playoff because people are very high on them after their Friday night win against Baylor. So we'll break down some of those too. But first, let's get into the state recap, the state review. How do I think the game went?
We won, so that was huge. The defense looked a lot better. There were a lot of really good takeaways. And so that's exciting as a fan to feel pretty good coming out of that game. But there were definitely still a lot of concerns as well, especially on the fundamental stuff like penalties. Penalties were a huge deal. We had 14, 11 of them were on offense. 8 of them were holding or false starts. So the offensive line play was pretty sloppy for much of the game. And the reality is we weren't going up against the SEC defensive line. These are not in all likelihood, former or future NFL pass rushers that we're holding and that we're, creating penalties and issues in that way. Shout out Kyle Ferry. He's in my notes for hitting the MS. He set the record for Mississippi State as far as field goal yardage goes, 55 yards. He hit that yesterday. But the offense, it was fun to watch. Ran the ball a lot, made good use of Bothwell and Booth, which was really cool. And then the thing I'll say about quarterback is I thought Shapen played well. I don't think that I am as optimistic about him as I was coming out of the first game last year, but that's just because he threw for a lot. Like, there's just a lot more yardage and a lot more touchdowns, I believe, in that first game last year. So this year it started out not necessarily slower. We didn't score on the first play. It took us, 5 plays? So that was one takeaway, but I'm excited. There are people who are calling for Kamario Taylor to start after yesterday, which I thought that was crazy. That really bothered me because Kamario Taylor didn't throw a pass. He came in and had one rush and then one touchdown like a 3-yard touchdown. They got called back.
Who was calling for it?
Burners and other people. Like okay. they're all like it's not like people whose faces are on the Twitter accounts, but it still just bothers me to see even Burners being like, Kamario Taylor needs to start. He's our best chance. I'm like, Shapen threw for 270 yards and a touchdown, and he had an interception, sure, but like, it's just not. Kamario Taylor is not ready yet. So that was one of my takeaways. Is our fans are insane.
Was that Lenore's running it in?
Yeah, Lenore's just ran in for 15-yard
What
touchdown.
are your thoughts on the game, JP?
I thought it was as good as it could have gone, honestly. I was completely expecting the slow start. I scored a touchdown on the first drive. To get beat on a double move by a tight end, I thought was just embarrassing.
It's tough scenes for sure.
And I do hope that like what we saw yesterday with Seydou Traore is something we continue to see. He was not used really much at all last year, and for the kind of weapon he is at the tight end position, he needs to be used more. He has 5 catches yesterday, second on the team to only Brendan Thompson, and of course the big 55-yard touchdown to start the game. I would love to see more of Seydou Traore this year, and to see that very early on was a promising sign. I thought specifically the defense was really, really good. A lot better than they were against Toledo. A lot better than they were, of course, in SEC play. Braylon Braxton ran for 58 yards on 12 carries. Kind of subpar. Doesn't meet one of the keys to the game that I gave, which was don't let Braylon out-physical us. But the rest of USM ran for 46 yards, 2.09 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That is really, really good. That's something that is very positive to see because if you saw our preview, I talked about the backs like Briggs Jr. and then the transfer from the school up north. I thought were going to be huge parts of USM's attack offensively, and they were shut down for the most part yesterday. Robert Briggs had 7 carries for 18 yards. Matt Jones, 5 carries for 11. Jeffrey Pittman, former Bulldog, got a bunch of carries, 9 carries for 16 yards. The rushing defense was really, really solid. I thought that was a huge positive. Something that I also thought was a positive defensively, every single defensive player that made the trip yesterday took snaps in that game. And I think that's a huge positive because last year, depth was a huge issue, especially when injuries occurred throughout the season. And you had just had guys coming in with no experience. And for Jeff Lebby to be able to get his players in and get them experience really early on in the season against kind of a hostile crowd, a road environment regardless, I thought was a huge positive for the team, for the locker room. I love the thought of bringing in Kamario Taylor and giving him snaps like that, like to give him confidence really early on in the season. Damn, I wish he got the touchdown.
Yeah, that was
instead
tough.
of the holding call, because I think that would have done huge numbers for him going on in his career. I'll say I don't think he should play very much more the rest of the season because I think Luke Cromenworth can do the exact same thing Kamario's doing. I think he can be the running threat that Kamario was in those packages, and he was. I mean, Luke ran 3 times for 21 yards yesterday late in the game. Defensively as well, Whit Whitson was really, really good. 2.5 TFLs, one of which was a sack. Offensively, Brendan Thompson was really, really good. 7 catches, 92 yards, a 51-yard strike, of course, where he was just bobbing and weaving guys the entire way down the field. That was really nice to see. I think it was a little 9-yard completion, and he's able to take it for a really huge gain.
I think I called touchdown on that, like right as he turned, because
I think
just,
you
like,
did,
he
yeah.
has way too much space.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
too
and
fast.
he should have scored. And then there was just a receiver and safety that pop into frame as he gets inside the 10-yard line. He unfortunately gets stopped. Thankfully, we were able to score a touchdown because that drive almost looked like we were about to get stopped for another field goal the first drive of the second half. Anthony Evans perhaps had the highlight of the day with a little hurdle down the sideline where he completely cleared the linebacker. Either that or, like Sanders said, Kyle Ferry's 55-yarder was...
It was almost the Isaac Smith interception, which he probably could have come down with the ball.
Yeah.
I don't hate his body was taking him very much out of bounds. I don't hate trying to toss it back in. I mean, in hindsight, yeah, it looked like his foot was going to be down, but I like the attempt.
His foot did come down in bounds. I don't think he expected it to, so I don't hate the attempt either. But it is just tough when, as he's throwing the ball, his foot comes down in bounds.
I think another one, like defensively, we gave up the garbage time touchdown with the backups essentially in. And then the other touchdown, that was like pure luck. Like it just gets deflected and then somehow ends up in the guy's hands as he's falling down to the ground for a touchdown. I think we probably would have stopped him inside the goal line had they not got that. And then my last positive point, the 2 backs were incredible. Fluff and Devon Booth were really, really good all day. Booth, 16 carries, 79 yards, 4.9 per carry, and a touchdown. Fluff, who Abby is now calling Fluffy. So
I don't hate that at all.
New nickname for Fluff Bothwell, Fluffy. Had 10 carries, 43 yards, 4.3 yards per carry, of course, and 2 touchdowns himself. I thought Chapin was accurate, played with poise, but the ball security was not something I liked. Fumbling very early on, and then the pick was just a bad throw.
That's the type of pick I throw in college football.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Where, like, I'm just staring down the slant or whatever it was, and the linebacker's there the whole time. So,
and then penalties, as you noted, Sanders, huge, 14 penalties, 119 yards. We had 2 touchdowns that were called back due to penalties. I'll say last 2 positives, though, and these are stat ones. 11 for 17 on 3rd down on the road. I don't care who we're playing. I don't care that Southern Miss only won 1 game last year. 11 for 17 on the road on 3rd down. That's impressive. I really like to see that. That's something we really struggled with last year, was sustaining drives. And to be able to do that on the road was a good start to the season. And then the defense held Southern Miss to 1 for 3 on 4th down. That's another just a great positive, keeping them from extending drives. So for me, I thought it went as good as you could have gone. The keys to the game, we punched early with the first touchdown, nailed that. Braylon Braxton did out-physical us, but the rest of the run game did not. And then I still think we're a little bit there to go for showtime, which was my last key to the game. But I'm hoping that's something we'll see here in a week in Starkville. But I thought the game went as good as it could have gone for the realistic expectations you should have. I was never concerned about us not covering all the way back to when we knew this was the first game of the season at the end of last year. And we did cover, even though they made a late attempt to cover. USM did. But I'm happy as a State fan.
as you should be.
And I'm impressed with the team, and it makes you excited to see what will occur here in a week.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
Or any thoughts from the chat right now?
Yeah. Sven, Andrew, Tucker, if y'all have thoughts on State. Yeah. I also loved, as far as the defense goes, I loved seeing, I feel like, adjustments. I feel like, because Southern Miss scored on they scored early too, right? And so the fact that we didn't let them score another touchdown until garbage time, that was big. So the defense, I think that's my biggest takeaway, is the defense improving. The offense was good, put up 34 points. We kind of expected the offense to be good because that's what Levy does, and we had a decent offense last year, even with the freshman quarterback starting. But seeing improvement from the defense, I think, is the biggest thing that State fans should be excited about.
Tell you what, Michael Van Buren looks really good in UVA blue and orange.
He really does.
He looks
He
great.
really does. We did not recruit a high schooler because we didn't want him to transfer out.
He's been a huge piece for us. But I also just want to ask the chat real quick. We had audio issues before the show, so if someone does just want to be like, yo, it still sounds good, that would put my heart at ease.
I would also feel that way.
Tucker, Andrews, Finn, somebody just be like, yeah, it sounds like normal. It was a big win. I watched a good bit of it. We had it on the computer with Ohio State, Texas on the TV, but we watched a good bit. I don't know. It was a good game. You really can't complain. I think you said it really well, JP. Like, similar to how I feel about UTSA, Texas A&M. Like, yeah, there were things that we should have done better at and things we'll have to work on, but there are a lot of positives, and I'm going to choose to focus on the positives at this point.
To get the performance you did out of Marcel Reed. The transfer wide receivers, that was a huge question immediately. And then KC looks good. Mario, of course, looks good. So, yeah, that's positives for the Aggies. Tucker makes a good point. I think Kelly Jones did look really good yesterday. Isaac Smith is going to be probably a draft pick as well. But to see Brylan Lanier play with confidence was huge. And even if the pick was it's a mistake you can't make as a quarterback that Braylon Braxton did, which is to throw over the flat of the cover 2 corner. And Brylan Lanier, though, gets depth and he makes a play on the ball. And I hope that builds confidence for him this year, because last year there were plays where it was just obvious this guy has no confidence.
It was the Tennessee game. There was a bad one, right?
The Tennessee game, there was a bad one. The Georgia game, there was an awful one where he makes almost no effort to tackle a guy as he's going into the end zone. To see him play with confidence yesterday, which he did, even with the interception, outside of that, he played really, really well, was a positive to see. And I hope that builds confidence for him going forward, because the DBs are going to have to be big next week with Jordan Tyson coming to town, and they're going to have to play well for us to have a chance in that game. But I was positive to see that out of them this weekend.
I think Tyson had 12 receptions and 2 touchdowns in week 1, which I'm sure they played.
Northern Arizona
yes.
is who they played.
But regardless, he started the season off strong, and people have high hopes for him. Anything else on State before we move on? Any other
think we're good?
Final points?
Nothing more. Going forward, Sunday shows are to react to the game and
Correct.
to not talk about the game this coming weekend.
Yep.
And really, expectations going forward in the season or anything, that's a Thursday thing. And I think it's better that way. One, we get to preview the game entirely. 2, we get to look at the other team and really understand what the other team is bringing in. 3, we get to hear Jeff Lebby's midweek press conference, and so we'll have injury updates, updates to who might be starting in some spots. So I think it's just better to get all that information then, rather than Sunday, no one knows. The team is not doing anything today besides having lunch and going to a mandatory trainer checkup for injuries and stuff.
Sure.
So we have no other information besides what happened yesterday. So Thursday shows will be to preview next week going forward. But Hail State 1-0. It's a good thing to see and a good thing to say. But we look forward to Saturday night, wearing the all black against the Sun Devils. That should be a really, really good game. Hopefully.
Crazy Jack's not going to be there.
Yeah, I won't be there. I say we go chronologically, Sanders.
So is that kickoff? So LSU,
Texas, Oklahoma State was first game of the day.
Texas, there it is. All right.
We got our morning started off with a defensive battle here between Texas and Ohio State. Neither quarterback looked great. I do think Sane looked better than Arch. But the talk of the morning until Alabama decided to not show up for their game was how rough Arch looked. Contrary to what most people expected, he was the Heisman favorite. And even though none of us went that far, we had varying degrees of hope/good expectations for him this season. And he just kind of looked like he regressed. And that really stalled Texas' offense. Ohio State did play very well. Their defense was really good. But even their offensive line really struggled. They struggled to run the ball well, under 3 yards per carry. Texas' front 7 did their job there. But yeah, I think Ohio State was very opportunistic. Even that fourth line stop on the goal line is huge. They've done it yet again, getting that pick.
The 4th and goal touchdown themselves.
Correct. That's the reason they won this game, because if you look at just the box score and the team stats, they were outgained by Texas. Texas ran the ball a lot more on them. But yeah, they were just opportunistic, and they get the big win at home. I'm just going to go and start. We can talk about Arch Manning. What did y'all see from him? There wasn't really much to like. I will say he hit a couple big throws late. That was like, there's the potential. That's a great ball. The touchdown at Parker Livingston. The outside shot to the tight end. I'm blanking on Injuries.
Injuries, yeah.
Yes, Injuries.
Was a great ball. But for the most part, just poor mechanics, in my opinion, and not really throwing with much anticipation.
Yeah, it started out really rough, and it's really confusing as a takeaway, because I think JP said it really well in our group chat, is like, we had not seen any of the issues we saw from Arch at all in previous like game footage, high school tape. Like, it was just kind of out of the blue. And so right now, I think it's pretty easy to chalk it up to, you were playing Ohio State, they're full of future NFL players on defense. You were playing at Ohio State. It's a really hard place for your first like real start. I mean, you played State at home. I think you played ULM at home. So I think it's really easy to kind of chalk it up to that. But it was pretty concerning. He just didn't get a lot of great looks. His completion percentage, or adjusted completion percentage, so that accounts for drops and et cetera, 62%. That's not great. It was 82nd out of 95 qualifying quarterbacks so far through week 1. His yards per attempt was 5.7, which was 72nd out of 95 quarterbacks. And then his time to throw, this is what's really concerning, 3.28 seconds. That's really slow. His 90th out of 95 quarterbacks so far in week 1. So he was holding the ball a long time. Shout out the offensive line for giving him that much time. And so I guess then the question becomes, was her wide receivers just not getting open? Like,
they were not.
Yeah.
I can go ahead and tell you they were
Correct.
not. Ohio State, Josh Pate said they literally blanketed them, and Pate was there on the sideline.
I think that's the best secondary in college football right there.
Yeah. I mean, Caleb Downs has a chance to be number 1 overall pick. I thought Igbinoso was incredible yesterday. I thought, considering how he has played in years past and the big penalties he's had, like, to not have that against that Texas team was a huge statement for him and can only improve his draft stock going forward. For Arch, like, he did not look good, obviously. 38 passing yards going into the fourth quarter. 38. Like, that is bad.
That's bad.
That is bad. Yeah. Whether you think Arch is good or not. And there are a lot of people that there's people that are saying he's the most talented quarterback in the world right now, Dan Orlovsky. And he deserves to get flack for that. But I would chalk it up personally. I think it was just one bad game.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks play bad games all the time. Mahomes has played 2 bad seasons in a row, and they've won the Super Bowl and lost the Super Bowl. So quarterbacks are going to play bad. You're going to have bad games, but I can't disagree with the fact that he was very poor mechanically. His footwork was really, really bad.
He kept trying to like sidearm it.
There were
reason.
A lot of. Pate also said he was standing there on the sideline, and you could watch Arch, and you didn't even have to see where the ball ended up. As soon as he released it, you could tell, oh, that was overthrown. That was underthrown. Oh, he missed.
Yeah.
And that is not something we've seen from Arch, and so their concern there is completely understandable. I think he'll improve on that, obviously. His receivers are going to get more open against other teams. Texas is not a bad team whatsoever. I think the biggest takeaway from that game is that 2 playoff teams just played a playoff-type game, and it was just happened to be a defensive battle the entire way. I also think one of the biggest takeaways from the weekend, and a big takeaway from that game, is, my God, we might have a season of who knows who's going to win, because it does. To watch what is just supposed to be the 2 best teams in football for a lot of people, Penn State could be in that argument, sure. For them to play like that, defensively they played excellent, but for their quarterbacks to look like that, even Julian Sayin was not tremendous throughout that game. It now brings the question of, man, it feels like anybody can really win it.
Yeah.
And that was something that people were previewing and people thought might happen this year. And it only feels like more true after watching that game yesterday. I want to say another thing on Arch. I thought his escapability looked really, really good. Not that he is, to bring up Mahomes again, I sound like, what's his name? Chris Collinsworth right now, glazing Mahomes. But I thought his escapability looked Mahomes-esque.
Yeah.
He is not necessarily the fastest guy, but he has some wiggle to him. And he had 10 carries for 38 yards. And against, let's be straight, like that's basically an NFL defense for the most part.
Yeah.
For him to be able to escape and still find scrambles here and there, I thought was impressive. I was, though, concerned with he did not get push. Like they ran the tush push a couple times throughout that game, and there was really nothing for Arch. And I think that's something concerning going forward. Like, he's just not physically big enough to run through anybody, it feels like. And, yes, those are NFL-type bodies. But for him to be able to do that at his size, I think is concerning going forward. Like, that's a quality you expected him to have. It's just kind of that moxie and that ability to just run through someone, gain the tough yards. Like, the 4th and goal on the one on the QB sneak, that should be a touchdown all day, like with Arch. And for him to basically go backwards on a QB sneak, I think is concerning going forward potentially for Texas. But I'll say, like, if you asked a Texas fan earlier this week, are you happy with these things? Do you think you're going to win the game? You throw for more yards. You run for more yards. You hold Ohio State to 2.9 yards per carry. Ohio State scores 14 points in their own building, and they're 3 for 12 on 3rd down. Would you think you won the game? Would you take that?
Yes.
100%.
100 times out of 100. And they did not win the game, and that's why we play the games. That is a reverse padlock stat, Josh Pate would call it. That was an impressive performance, I thought, from Ohio State collectively as a group. And it was something I kind of expected them to the roster just beat Texas's roster, which I think is a great statement for Ryan Day. But I think, again, the biggest takeaway is those were 2 playoff teams that just played a playoff type game. Let's not overreact and call Texas terrible. Let's not overreact and call Arch bad. He looked bad. That doesn't mean he is bad.
Yeah.
My long-term outlook on him is still very high. There's just clearly some things to clean up. And mechanically, I am a little worried that, like, I'm not sure that's, like, he's just going to flip the switch and roll into next week or week 3, and that's going to be all cleaned up. That's a takes time type thing.
You want to flip it and talk about Ohio State?
That's exactly, yeah. I mean, even just both teams, like, talking about them both being playoff teams, there's definitely stuff they can work on. I think Texas offense got out-schemed. Someone said in the chat, just like the game plan is better. Matt Patricia did a great job. But then on Ohio State side, as good as the defense was, and JP mentioned, I thought the secondary was fantastic. Even like Jermaine Matthews had a great game back there. I think both their lines were like good but not great. I think they both have growing to do. The offensive line really struggled to get push in the run game. And then you're playing one of the best front sevens in college football. So like you're never going to get consistent push, I guess, but they didn't have a single run of 10-plus yards. They never even like popped 1 or 2, and I would have loved that to at least have been the case. And then defensive line, I would have liked them to get more pressure on Arch because Arch really did have a lot of time to throw. The Texas O-line did a good job protecting him for the most part. So they'll need to work on that. But it's just a huge Week 1 win for them. 2 new coordinators, a ton of new players, and you go win that game where you look like the more consistent team. You look like the more prepared team, the more gelled team. And I didn't expect that, so huge props to them for that.
We want to talk about Jeremiah Smith. Didn't have the best game yesterday, which was interesting because Jack talked about earlier off air. Last year in the playoffs, Smith had 1 reception for 3 yards. Is that right? Something like that?
Yep.
It wasn't a lot. Got shut down again yesterday. I think the most interesting thing was the drops. He had 2 drops yesterday. Last season, the entirety in all 15 games, he had 1 all year. So that was a little odd to see him come out and immediately just like start dropping balls. not exactly what you want to see from what some people think is the best wide receiver in college football right now. But he wasn't necessarily helping Sayan out. But
I mean, I also think he had a fine game. The drops aren't great, but they schemed us open looks. He had 6 receptions, a little over 40 yards. Texas just wasn't going to give him anything all game.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you take the easy stuff. Sayan missed him on the 1 touchdown early in the game. He beat his guy downfield, was wide open.
Yeah.
And Sayan just tries to hit the tight end on an out to convert the 4th down. He never looks downfield. So, like, it's maybe not the game we've come to expect from Jeremiah Smith, but I think he's played his role just fine, aside from the drops. I'm not really worried or anything like that. So
Yeah, no, I thought he actually played well. The 2 drops, I think, were more just nerves, I guess. First game of the season, big moment. You're the cover of the football, the video game. All the hype is there, and I think that was a part of it. Also, you're adjusting to a new quarterback. Like, that's something that doesn't get talked about enough, is that when you have a new quarterback, he throws the ball differently. And so when the ball is coming to you, it looks different. It flies different. It tails off different. And perhaps him and Sayan just aren't on the same page there yet. And so he is more so adjusting to where the football is coming from and where it's going to be than at the end of last year, where he knows how Will Howard's balls look. Immunity on that.
yeah, I'll give you that one. Just real quick, talking about the nerves thing, I think it's a great point, because especially the first drop on the little like screen type play out in the flat, to me, I would think of like he got over eager of like, now's my chance, I'm going to take this and go, and just tries to run without catching the football.
Yeah, he's playing against a team that held him to 1 catch and only a couple of yards in the playoff last year. And so when you get, I can tell you from playing travel basketball, like when a team is taking you away, when they're trying to take you out of the game, when you find yourself in a moment where like, oh, I can actually make something happen, you press, you get nervous, you overstep, you try to really, really take advantage of a simple play. And I think that's well characterized on that, especially that first drop for Jeremiah Smith. I thought, Andrew, to answer your question, Sayan looks a lot more like Kyle McCord than he does C.J. Stroud. He does not have the ability to throw it deep with strength. He can throw a lobbed deep ball, as he did to Carnell Tate for the touchdown, but he's not a guy who's just going to drive the ball down the field 25, 30 yards. And I knew that coming in. I saw that, especially watching his film. So I think that's a question going forward for Ohio State, is like they don't necessarily have a vertical threat.
Sure.
They have elite receivers that can get open downfield, but they don't have a guy who's just going to drive it in between the 2 safeties on a post route, drive it up the sideline for a back shoulder, one-on-one with Jeremiah Smith. He's only going to be able to throw the kind of deep ball he threw to Carnell Tate for the touchdown yesterday. This season, I think that's a huge question going forward for Julian. But I think it's a positive. Like, he beat Texas. They won against Texas. And so going forward, he's more than likely the starting quarterback. And he still, I thought, handled himself really well considering the defense that he was playing. Pressure was in his face a ton throughout the game, and he still handled it pretty well. No running game, and he was still able to make a few plays here and there. I thought, to continue on Ohio State, 3 guys defensively. I already talked about Igbinosa. There's one. But Arvell Reese looked amazing. 9 tackles and a sack. He was flying all over the field. And then Sonny Styles was flying all over the field as well. I thought those 3 guys just looked really, really good. And it was an Ohio State defense that's replacing a lot of pieces, especially in the front 7 from last year. And Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles just kind of fit right in immediately. Caden Curry played well, 6 tackles, didn't have a sack or anything like I kind of expected him to. But I thought defensively, Ohio State looked really, really good. And celebrate defense, as I say. They won the game because they played so well defensively. And I think they're going to earn the right to be the number 1 team in the country this coming week.
They will be my number 1 team. A little preview there, I guess.
Virginia Tech is celebrating defense right now. They just got a safety on Lenore Sellers. So they sacked him. It was an interception on the 2-yard line. They get the sack, safety.
Anything else you want to add, or do you want to move on to the next game?
I think I'm good to move on to the next
cool.
game.
I was going to say real quick, if Ryan Day actually has his nipples pierced, that's wild.
I'm just I have no idea what to do with that. It did not want that to be on my feed all day yesterday, and yet it was.
I loved it personally. It was really funny. It's just like it's a funny thing to think about.
Oh, it's hilarious to think about. I just don't want to
Sure.
see it. Was I the first one of us? We were hanging out. I was like, I'm the one that
Yeah, you found it
figured
first.
it out. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what that is. We were trying to figure out if he had like a bad. Maybe he's wearing like a microphone pack.
Yeah, I mean the odds are he doesn't actually have his nipples pierced as a.
Yeah, Abby said it might have been a microphone. I don't think it was.
I don't think so.
It really
looks
looked like-
exactly
yeah.
like he has. All right. Anyway, let's move
Which-
on.
I would say negative aura, but then you go win that game, so
Yeah, he kind of.
can't complain.
Yeah, Andrew. Maybe it was a bet. Like maybe he made a deal with God. He was like,
Or
if
the
I
team.
win the championship, maybe that. Yeah, I don't know. He sold his soul to God, and he said, if we win the championship, I'll get my nipples pierced. And he was-
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, he's not the only guy who backed up his claim. The Florida guy ate the poop. Florida State guy finally ate the poop.
Did he actually?
He has to have. It's the only answer.
What do you mean? It's the only answer.
They're good. They beat Alabama.
Oh, I see now.
He has to have eaten the poop. There's no way they win that game without him eating the poop. Which, speaking of that game,
Well, I don't know. We'll get into that game. I was gonna say there could be we could have two. I don't know. It could be like two negatives, and Alabama's negatives just stronger. So maybe Florida State still sucks.
yeah, maybe.
Anyway, Alabama, a team most people thought would bounce back this year, and they still could, but they did not look like they're going to bounce back at all this season, except that first drive where it was like, oh, shoot, they're going to run the ball. They ran for 55 yards on that drive, punch it in, go up, and they give up 24 unanswered. Defense can't get a stop. They look soft. Linebackers missing tackles, not filling gaps, falling for eye candy that is very common in a Gus Malzahn scheme. And the wheels just fell off. The offense lost its steam. They couldn't really protect Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson also looked like a deer in headlights. They went away from the running game. Receivers were dropping passes. It was just bad all around. And then when they tried to right the ship, it was too little too late. And they ended up losing by 2 touchdowns in kind of a shocker. Even just like if you had FSU winning this game, I think you would have talked to almost nobody that would have had Florida State dominating Alabama like this because of the talent Alabama had, especially on the 2 lines of scrimmage, and it just did not show. So thoughts on the games? Like what? I don't know. Just like
I've got. I mean, I think I have the most notes from this game that I do from any other game. I'm going to start with Tommy Castellanos because he was kind of like the main storyline leading up to this game was all the trash talking he was doing, and then Alabama players kind of hitting back and being like, "You just like wait." Like it was an interesting dynamic leading up to it, and a lot of people were worried that Florida State was going to get beat and Castellanos was going to look made pretty goofy. And instead, he goes off and runs for 78 yards and a touchdown, 16 attempts.
68 attempts would be crazy, man.
16 attempts, and then was very effective through the air, 9 for 14 with 152 yards, and then I believe another touchdown. I don't have it up there. Maybe not. I can't remember.
No, he only had 1 touchdown
Okay,
on the ground.
just the one rushing touchdown, 10.88 yards per attempt. So, and just led a very effective offense. Florida State didn't have a 3-and-out until the fourth quarter. So they were not getting sent off the field quickly. They were staying on the field. But it was just concerning as far as Alabama's defense goes to see them struggle with a rushing quarterback yet again. The Oklahoma game last year, John Mateer ran all over them.
Jackson Arnold.
Thank you. What? Jackson Arnold, thank you. I don't know.
You're
yes,
good.
Jackson Arnold, the rushing quarterback at Oklahoma last year, ran all over them. They lost to Vanderbilt with Diego Pavia, who didn't post the same stats that Arnold did, but is still a rushing quarterback. It's just been kind of a continuous struggle for them. And now it kind of turns into like, what adjustments are they going to make if they haven't made them yet? And it's a little concerning for me seeing that. But what are your thoughts specifically on like Florida State side of the ball, JP?
I thought Tommy looked great. Backed up the hype. 152 yards through the air, like you said, on only 9 completions. So this guy was airing it out. And as you said, 10.8 yards per attempt. I thought that was immediately something that was like, okay, that's impressive. To do that against the caliber of defense that Alabama supposedly had was really impressive. I thought Tommy really carried the show for them, and I thought he was the engine of this run that Florida State had yesterday. he leads them in rushing yards, leads them in passing yards. And so, not that it was a one-man show, but it felt that way. It felt that way watching the game, that this Tommy was just not someone that was going to be tackled. And I thought Florida State really handled to score 31 points against this Alabama defense. If you had told a Florida State fan you did that 2 days ago, they would probably think they won the game.
Yeah.
And they did, doing it that way. The rain didn't play as much as a factor as we previously thought it was going to. Although it did rain for a little bit.
I might
of the
disagree.
game.
I think it played a pretty big factor, but that's just like I think Florida's ability to run the ball, I think, is where the rain played a factor. Is it pushed the game on the ground, and Ryan Williams had 3 drops. I think that potentially has a lot to do with wet balls, slippery hands. Like, I think the rain did end up playing a factor.
Should have soaked up those balls more, I guess.
Yeah.
2 things I'll say on that. Not saying the rain doesn't play a factor, but there's no reason Alabama shouldn't be able to run the ball either.
Yeah.
And then also, compared to what we were expecting from the weather, where it was eventually just going to rain all game and just be terrible weather, it was not that.
That's fair.
Except for that maybe one stretch where it really was raining.
Yeah, that's my point there.
Conditions do still matter, but we were potentially thinking a monsoon hurricane type game, and it wasn't that.
I don't think they won the game, though, offensively. The offense was a big part of it, but defensively is the reason they won this game. They had 7 tackles for loss. As you said, Bama rushed for 55 yards on the opening drive, 29 rushing yards the rest of the game. That opening drive, they took nearly 9 minutes off the clock, 8 minutes, 50 seconds. The rest of the game, they had one drive longer than 4 minutes. The rest were 3 minutes and 15 seconds or less. Multiple under 2 minutes, and even 2 that were under a minute. Offensively, they could not get anything going after that first drive, and that was extremely surprising to see. Earl Little was amazing in that game. I think he's a star in the making. I believe he had 10 tackles yesterday. 9 tackles, 4 solo, and of course a TFL as well. I thought he really, really played well. He kind of quickly becomes a name for Florida State. The big thing I hear, I think, is it's crazy that this game is not swaying Vegas specifically. Florida State has risen a little bit up the ACC title ranks, but only a few spots. Alabama is still sitting there at 4 to win the ACC. And so I think a big point for this game is I don't know if we should react as much as we should yet, because what if Florida State is just a top 10 team in the country and Alabama went into Doak Campbell, and just got beat by Florida State. What if Alabama is terrible under Kalen DeBoer? What if they're a 7-5 football team? Both of those things could happen, and then we shouldn't react as much as we should. What if they're both top 10 teams in the country, and it was just a competitive battle in week 1, and we don't really know how to react? I think the big thing there is let's let this play out a little bit. Yeah. Let's not go ahead and draw up conclusions. But I think the first reaction you are allowed to make, and the first reaction I'm making, is Florida State could very well win the ACC, and Alabama should not be a national championship pick.
Yeah. I think
it's too late for that.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think I'll say I agree with you. I do think the reactions should get there eventually, because I do think that we're going to find out one of those things is true. Either Alabama is worse than we thought, and we should get to that extreme reaction at some point.
Both can also be true, I will say.
Yeah. But I do agree that we just don't know what it is yet. And so overreacting at this point doesn't really make sense. But this game is going to have implications, and we're going to be able to look back on this in 5-6 weeks and hopefully be able to identify, well, did Florida State just outplay Alabama because they're better, or did Alabama just underperform? I think we're going to know a lot more about how to handle this situation in a couple weeks. I also want to point out Florida State's defense was incredible on 4th down. They held Alabama to 2 for 5 on 4th down, really forcing them to go for it. A lot of 4th down attempts for Alabama. I mean, that is the reality when you're down, but
yeah, I mean, some of them were 4th and 10,
Yeah.
But still,
and then
still
also,
well done to hold.
Just watching the game, Florida State just looked so fast and so physical. That was one of the things that kept blowing me away, was on the D-line, winning one-on-ones constantly, getting in the backfield, meeting the running back. Or there were a couple where they were just out in the flat, on screens or running backs bouncing to the outside where they were just there. The Florida State defense was almost always there. That really impressed me, seeing the physicality that they played with and the speed they played with. And then the lack of that on Alabama's defense, I think, was kind of an issue, especially in the linebacker core. There were a lot of times where Castellanos would get into that second layer at the linebacker core, and there was just nobody there.
They always fell ahead for 3 or 4 yards, like after kind of the first hit. Like a defensive lineman would like kind of get an arm on him, but there was no one there ever to clean up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so Castellanos constantly hurt them in that way, just like getting the extra couple yards up the middle. And there were some, the QB, the play calling for Florida State by Gus Malzahn, I thought was fantastic. Getting Castellanos, he always seemed to be able to time up the QB draw to get 7 or 8 yards very consistently. I remember there was one, I think like in the third quarter, where they were driving and then Castellanos takes a QB draw, slips, like there was no hole, and he slips through and then gets 6 or 7 yards out of it. I was like, wow, like there's Alabama just can't stop this right now. So the QB run and the play calling by Malzahn was very well done, but I do agree that waiting to react is going to be the best approach.
They're not waiting in T-Town, I will say.
They are not. It is very funny to see Twitter accounts I've never heard of on my feed talking about Kalen DeBoer and how he needs to be fired. And we can get into that later because we'll talk about buying or selling on Alabama in our later segments. But what are your thoughts on Kalen DeBoer coming out of this game?
I'm disappointed in him. I'm not talking about Amen from Tucker in the chat on wise men make observations, foolish men make conclusions. My observation here is the team just wasn't ready, wasn't as fired up as Florida State, and that a lot falls on coaching. And I think it was an issue at times last year. And the reason I'm disappointed is because for someone that loved his Washington teams, that was not an issue at Washington. They always played fiery. They always were ready to go. They weren't someone that they were constantly making stupid mistakes there. And so it's just not what I expected to happen under DeBoer at Alabama. So I'm very disappointed in him. And that's because I had high expectations, and I really hope he can right the ship because I do really like him. But
yeah, I really didn't expect the way the team played and kind of like the discipline to be as big an issue. Penalties were a huge problem yesterday. They had 8 penalties for 70 yards. Florida State only had 4 for 40. Listening to Josh Pate this afternoon, DeBoer at Alabama has never had a team with less penalties than the opposing team. And that is a huge problem. You cannot win a lot of football games if you are going to commit more penalties than the other team every single time. You are going to lose the big games. You're going to lose a couple small games. You're going to get upset. Like that is just not a reliable, consistent way to perform and to win ball games. So that was a huge concern. But I'm not going to talk about DeBoer anymore because I have a lot more to say about him later.
Real quick, I just did say I was really disappointed in DeBoer, but like the players just like I also feel like they didn't do their job either. And obviously like the coaches it's their job to get them in the right spots. But when it comes to linebackers not run filling, linebackers getting blown up by blockers, like DeBoer can't make people win assignments. So I like wouldn't put the blame solely on him. I do feel like there's just some I don't know. Like I don't know how to feel about the culture there, which is such a weird thing to say about Alabama. And coaching does reflect culture, but even like Nick Saban was like basically I'm ready to retire because the culture is going in a way that I don't like, and so I'm going to get out. And so it's just kind of weird vibes there all around. I mean, just see how it plays out.
Yeah. And
hope he can right the ship. But JP, you got something you definitely want to say. I see it in your face.
Kalen DeBoer and Alabama are 5-5 in their last 10 games. They're very quickly about to be 7-6. When they lose to Georgia in 3 weeks, DeBoer already has 4 unranked losses at Alabama. Nick Saban, it took over a decade for that to happen.
That's what Josh Pate said. I looked it up yesterday. He had 4 in his first 2 years. According to what I was looking at, I can go back and double check that.
I think the biggest point, the group is light years far from a Nick Saban Alabama team.
Yes.
And in quickly 2 years, they have gone 9-3, disappointing year, losing to Vanderbilt. And now they have maybe potentially lost a game to a mid-tier ACC game just to be embarrassed on the road to open the season. And effort, toughness, and will to win are being questioned of an Alabama team And that is really kind of disappointing to see. The clips you've seen on Twitter of poor effort from players throughout yesterday's game are evident. They're being seen multiple times throughout a series, not even a game. It's very disappointing to see. Offensively, did not be able to move the ball, was disappointing. Did not be able to move the ball on the ground, regardless of Jan Miller's not playing or not. That was really disappointing to see. And so I think out of the, like I said, you shouldn't make big reactions.
There's more sample size for this one.
I think there's enough to be said that this is really concerning if you're an Alabama fan. And I hate to say it, but it feels like a told you so. It was one of my first reactions to Nick Saban retiring and even the hiring of Kalen DeBoer. It was get ready to lose a lot more. I hope you're ready, to adjust to that, because that is
they were always going to lose a lot more.
Going to be the case, and yet they still are reacting as if they should be winning a championship this year, which they had rightful eyes to look at that, but that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I think Cromie kind of was putting it well in chat. What I was trying to say earlier of it was trending that way Saban's last season. That's kind of why Saban got out, and so it's still on DeBoer because he's not fixed it, and it has gotten worse. But it's not like the last year of Saban's tenure was this immaculate. They went and won the title, dominated everyone as they had for stretches.
I understand that.
He was clearly very frustrated that year.
But I disagree, because they were the 4th-ranked team in the nation, and they were one play from beating the national champions in Michigan in overtime on the Rose Bowl.
And yet that year we were still saying this is not a Saban standard team.
But
right?
that Saban team,
it's clearly gotten so much worse.
Way better than the past 2 years of Alabama.
That's what I'm saying. It's gotten worse.
Yes, I understand that, but I also don't think that this is something that Saban started. I think it was.
I think the players started it.
It is something that is, like you said, occurred from the players of this is not a Saban culture anymore, and so now that the accountability is just not there as much as it had been in the past, clearly, and that's being shown out there on the field.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not saying Saban started it. The players started it, and DeBoer's not made the right moves to either get those players out of the building or help those players, I don't know, change their mentality, and he's flunked that part of whatever it was.
Cromie, now you're saying that Michigan is bad by saying that. So either is Michigan great or is Michigan bad? If Alabama easily could have won that game, yet they were bad. Well, you got to pick one of the lanes, and then we can argue.
I mean, Michigan didn't play well in that semifinal game, and they still won. So,
sure,
great teams can play poorly.
All right, next up, so we're going chronological 11 a.m., 2:30, so the night game, LSU Clemson.
Yeah, which is the last game we got to talk about in full anyway.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
Big win by the team that traveled from the real Death Valley to Clemson's Death Valley. They go in and win 17-10, and what I would consider kind of similar to the Ohio State-Texas game in terms of defenses being opportunistic, defenses playing really well. I think LSU's offense actually played really well considering where they were at. The story for me, though, is how LSU's defense looked, talking about it being a defensive slugfest, because we had tons of questions on that with all the transfers they brought in and how they've not been very good these past couple years. But returners like Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins had great games. I thought Mansour Delane was fantastic on the outside. A.J. Halsey was good, too. They just kind of gave Clemson fits all game. Clemson could never get anything going consistently. It's starting with their run game. The run game was downright terrible. And I don't really ever trust a Dabo Sweeney Clemson team to just, well, I guess in this addition of them to just bomb it downfield all game and get that to work, especially not against a team that has good corners anyway. So it was kind of uphill sledding from Clemson from the start in that sense. But thoughts? What did y'all see from LSU's defense? Were you all impressed? Any questions still with it?
I thought the defense was good.
Good.
Sorry, it was great. Sorry, I'm thinking more I'm already trying to say I want to talk more about Clemson's offense.
No, talk about the defense, please.
Respect defense. Celebrate defense. My
We'll
apologies.
get to Clemson's offense in a second. Let's keep it on the defense.
LSU's defense was very good to go into Death Valley, 1A Death Valley. A Death Valley, and shut down that offense in a situation where basically everything should be going Clemson's way, right? They've got the home field advantage. They've got everybody there. And to be able to shut that down, an offense that I thought was going to be fantastic, I picked Cade Klubnik to win the Heisman. I love the wide receivers they have there. I was really excited to see this offense. I was really expecting Clemson's offense to kind of cook LSU's defense because of the transfers and the fact that I wasn't expecting them to perform well due to lack of chemistry, it being so early, and you bring a bunch of new guys. But they worked well, they played together well, and they shut down that offense way more than I was expecting. So they played fantastic. Somebody else?
I thought Harold Perkins was the most impressive player the entire night. To come off an ACL tear, and he was flying around the field. We talked about it in the LSU preview that or it was either that or the game preview, that he was going to be playing essentially safety/linebacker position for LSU, and they kind of mixed and matched him all over the field. I'm really excited to see the PFF report on it, to see where he played all of his snaps, because I wasn't able to log it throughout the game, but he was all over the field. His speed was the most impressive part. Is just to be that fast coming off an ACL tear was really impressive. He essentially wins the game on the final play. Cade has a lane. If it's anyone else, Cade probably scrambles past that guy, maybe picks up that first down on fourth down, but Harold comes from the opposite side of the field and chases him down with ease. And Cade never even gets really a step of an advantage over him. So I thought Harold was really, really good last night. And then obviously Delane was impressive throughout the entire night. The transfer from Virginia Tech. The Weeks brothers were really, really good, both of them. Arguably West played better than Witt, you could argue. And so I thought that was really impressive. Defensively, to be able to slow down a running game that already had questions going in, but to basically shut them down entirely was really, really impressive for a team that was not necessarily great at stopping the run last year. And then to stop a Clemson offense with as many weapons as they have, and while Clemson lost probably their best weapon very, very early in the game, they played man coverage throughout much of the second half and were dominant in man coverage against receivers that are going to be draft picks in the future. And for me, I think that was extremely impressive. LSU has always kind of been known for having elite defensive back play. Think of Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, Derek Stingley, more recently, Grant Delpit. List kind of goes on. Delane might become that for them very quickly, and they played like that last night to shut down the Clemson firepower throughout that entire game and really hold them to basically nothing, make them look like they have looked in all of their SEC games as of late. That was really impressive to see from the LSU defense, and that defense is back. 2 sacks, 4 TFLs, 6 pass deflections, and a pick. They were really, really impressive the entire night.
Not necessarily what I wanted to see as a fan of a team that has to go play LSU in Death Valley later this season, but it is what
Death
happened.
Valley?
Yeah, sure. We can pivot now, though, Sanders. We can talk about Clemson's offense because clearly you have some thoughts there, so go in and give them.
Clemson's offense, especially in the run game, was awful. They posted some of the lowest totals and stats we have seen in the past several years. They rushed for a total of 31 yards, which was the lowest since 2023 when they lost in double overtime to Miami, and they averaged 1.6 yards per carry. I think the biggest takeaway is we talked about this in the preview show, and one of the questions I posed was, with the inexperience at running back, starting a freshman and then a wide receiver who converted to running back this year, is there a possibility the run game doesn't work and they're a one-dimensional offense? And the conclusion we came to was that their passing offense will be good enough that it won't matter. I think that's kind of what we said, and now looking back, it's kind of like, well, it does matter.
Yeah.
Because when your running game is this bad, which I don't think any of us expected it to be this bad, at least not and maybe this is because they played an elite defense who we'll find out in 6 weeks is the best defense in the country. That's a possibility. We don't know. But it was very bad, and I don't think any of us were expecting this. They scored 10 points, which last year, that's the fewest they've scored since last year's season opener against Georgia. So like you said earlier, it's just a continuous struggle against SEC teams. But I'm interested, how does Clemson bounce back? And, can they perform as a one-dimensional offense? Because that's kind of what they look like right now.
I mean, they're going to bounce back just fine. And do you want to go first? Because I'm going to talk for longer.
You're the Clemson fan, so I'll get my thoughts in. I think they're going to bounce back, and it's also they have the benefit of having a stretch of easier games, and they have a lot of time to get right. I think they're going to bounce back. I think their passing game will perform better. Talking about what we talked about in the preview of we think they can operate as a one-dimensional offense or a mostly one-dimensional offense. You have to be able to run the ball a little bit at some point.
Yeah.
I just don't think we expected LSU's defense to look this good this soon. So I think that is a huge part of it, but also expect the run game to come along a little bit as they work on it. I don't think that's something Dabo's just going to give up as a lost cause because of who he is. One, that's an important part of his offense and Garrett Riley's offense, but also Dabo's one of the most stubborn guys you'll probably ever meet. Think about him with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So, if he thinks it can work, it's going to work. But I'm not really too worried about the long-term projection of this team, though it does hurt, and it does – my confidence does waver a little bit when they lose yet again, and it kind of looks like they just got outmatched yet again by an SEC team. I don't love that.
Yeah.
JP?
They're going to be fine. They were held to 3 points by Georgia last year. The next week they come out and play App State and scored 56 points in the first half. Yeah, it's App State. Big difference. But the offensive firepower is still there. They're not going to get wavered from a poor performance against LSU. Later on in the season, are they going to have to put up good numbers against good teams? Hell yeah. But they're not going to get wavered by this. The season is far from over. In fact, I think it's more... It's a stupid take, but I think it helps them go ahead and getting this loss out of the way. As much as winning against LSU would have helped momentum, they now have to play with their pants on fire. They have to play really, really competitive. They can't lose another game outside of the South Carolina game this year because they need to make the ACC championship at least. And they're going to get those tests in these next few weeks. I kind of disagree with you're going to easier competition. They play at Georgia Tech in 2 weeks. In 4 weeks, they play at North Carolina, which we'll see how they look tomorrow night. The following week, they'll be at Boston College. So I think they're going to get tested. They're going to get some early road tests, and I think it's going to help them a ton. The rushing attack was piss poor yesterday, sure. They ran for 1.7 yards per carry, but they're not going to rush for only 360 yards this season, which is what they're on pace for. They're going to be better rushing the football. They just could not get anything consistently going on the ground. People were saying, a person were saying Adam Randall was looking positive. He ran for 16 yards. I don't know if you can necessarily say that yet. The touchdown run was nice, but that was a 1 yard carry where he's 6'2". He should out-physical the linebacker that's tackling him anyway. Their rushing attack is going to be better, but they lost Antonio Williams really early in the first quarter. Their best receiver, Antonio Williams, doesn't have a catch the entire game, and I thought that hindered them a ton. He's their most consistent guy. He's the guy Kay trusts the most. He's the guy that's going to get the most consistently open. And TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco have all the talent in the world, but they're not quite there yet. Creating separation consistently, especially in man coverage, and so that hindered them a ton throughout the game. I think they're going to be fine. They have the kind of roster that is built, while it doesn't have the same talent profile as Ohio State last year. They have that kind of roster that if they just get in to the playoff, they could go and win the championship. I don't think you can say they wouldn't, because the offensive firepower is there, I should say. But the defense was really, really impressive yesterday, and that is the biggest takeaway for me as a Tiger fan, is that Clemson defense is back. 1 sack, 8 TFLs, 5 pass deflections. We held Garrett Nussmeier, a top 10 pick in the draft, probably now. I think his stock is very quickly rising.
I have a take on him I'll get to in a minute, but continue.
And a good LSU offense. The ground game was working well. Their passing game was really, really good. You know, you have a touchdown taken off the board, which was not a touchdown. He didn't complete the process of a catch. If that's a catch, then Des Bryant caught it, which Des Bryant did catch it. But that
Des Bryant didn't catch it.
That was not a catch.
That's crazy, Jack.
And to hold that LSU offense to 17 points is a statement. So you should be
Completely agree.
very happy that you held LSU to 17 points in the first game of the season. Like that's an impressive statement to make. And you held them to 17 points in a game where Nuss was so impressive. He handled pressure in his face so well the entire night. The adjustments at the line, he was picking apart Clemson's offense in a lot of spots. They would just spread out to an empty set and just play a numbers game, and they threw a little tight end screen 3 times in a row. The accuracy he had while rolling out of the pocket was really impressive. He found his safety valve a ton, especially when pressure got into his face. And the big thing for Nuss last night was he eliminated the common mistake he makes, which is throwing a bad pick in a bad spot. He did not do that last night. And Clemson still held them to 17 points. Nuss had only one game last year, one big game, where he did not throw an interception at a poor time, and that was the loss at Florida. He threw 1 versus USC, 1 versus South Carolina, 2 versus the school up north, 3 versus A&M, and 2 versus Alabama. He threw 0 against Clemson last night, and they still held him to 17 points. So for me, I think you got to take a huge positive out of that. Like, the defense was good enough to hold one of the best offenses in the SEC to 17 points.
In the country, I mean.
Which is, yeah. That's
Good
the same.
clarification.
I think that's the
Same
same point.
thing for you. It's not the same thing for everyone.
That is fair.
We got some SEC haters around these days.
And I thought defensively, like, Hannafin was really impressive. He played way better than I thought he would. Sammy Brown and Wade Woodaz were as good as advertised. And then Avion Terrell looked really, really good. And I did not even mention out of those 4 guys, the 2 guys that are going to be top 20 draft picks in TJ Parker and Peter Woods,
Sure.
who were kind of shut down throughout the night. But the rest of the stars shined for Clemson. Penalties was a trouble, especially the one defensive back had a couple penalties that kind of cost Clemson in the key spots, especially in like some 3rd and goals to force 4th and goal. So that's kind of a question for him. I forgot his name. Let me pull up his name. He needs to play better.
Cromie's raising his hand in
this
chat.
year.
Yeah, I think Chromie has a question. What is your question?
Fire
Chromie?
away, Chromie.
Ashton Hampton was his name. He had 3 penalties last night. That was not something we want to see the rest of the year, of course.
Absolutely not.
But that the defense was there, and I think that was impressive to hold that offense to 17 points in a night where I thought Garrett Nussmeier raised his stock a ton in the NFL draft is enough to say that this Clemson team is not going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree the defense isn't going to have any issues. I wrote in my notes that regardless of what your reaction is to the Clemson's offensive performance, this team still has a crazy high floor because of the defense.
Yeah.
The offense could really never fully figure it out, and they'd be fine. They'd still win a lot of games. Talking about, though, them just like needing to get to the playoffs and talent profile can carry, I'm a little worried about that because, yet again, Cade Klubnik gets outdueled by his competitor on the other side. Garrett Nussmeier has a much better game, which there's a ton of factors for that. Better game plan from LSU, in my opinion. LSU's receivers did a better job of getting open. I even think about the one throw Cade had late in the game. That was perfect back shoulder, and the receiver can't haul it in. But I just don't like to see that. And then my Garrett Nussmeier take is I think he's the best quarterback in the country.
Wow.
I'm not from a pro prospect standpoint. Like, I'm not saying I take him number 1 overall, but I just think he's so advanced. He doesn't have as many weaknesses as some of the other guys. I can trust him to consistently hit throws. He's not going to randomly miss a guy like some of these other people will. The moment last night was huge for me, seeing the moment not get too big for him, because like seeing him in the A&M game last year where he threw 3 picks, it seemed like the moment just got too big for him. But that was a huge statement, like you said, from him, in my opinion, going and getting that done. at Clemson is just massive.
You would still say like there are guys out there with like higher ceilings, right? Like Lenore Sellers, like.
Yeah, but like
right now, Garrett Nussmeier is playing like the best quarterback in college
Sellers
football.
has played less ball. I think Garrett Nussmeier's like mental ability in the game in terms of like recognizing stuff pre-snap and just going through reads is just miles ahead of a lot of the other guys like a Lenore Sellers, something like that.
That's fair.
He doesn't have the physical traits of Lenore Sellers, nowhere close.
He should be a top 10 pick right now. I had him as a middle first in my preseason. Immediately in that game, like he jumps up to a top 10 pick. Now he'll just have to sustain that. I want him. I want it. Not that he needs to throw 0 interceptions this year, but I want to see him sustain the lack of making mistakes. Herb Street mentioned it like 12 times throughout the broadcast of like this was something that hindered him last year, which is true. Interceptions, especially in poor spots. He's just got to sustain that this year, and I think he easily gets himself in the top 10.
It was a fantastic performance.
I don't want him in black and gold, though. I want Lenore's.
That's fair.
All right. My newest theory, I tweeted about this, is that Jerry is tanking for Arch. And now my counter theory is that Arch is tanking to avoid getting drafted by the Cowboys first overall.
Who's tanking? Oh, Arch
The
is?
Cowboys.
I
said
see.
my joke I tweeted yesterday, or a couple days ago, was like the Cowboys are tanking for, I don't know why. Oh, it came up because you were talking about going top 10, and that made me think of Arch. My joke was that like the Cowboys clearly traded Micah to tank and get Arch first overall, Texas boy, keep him in Texas. And then yesterday I was like, oh, this is funny. Arch is clearly tanking to avoid getting drafted first overall by the Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, Jerry Jones will tell you the Cowboys aren't tanking. They made a winning move in trading Micah Parsons. So
they're going to go get talent because that's what they don't have.
Yep. Okay, before we get into the stock market, Technical Fowl stock market, and buying and selling, weekly takeaways. Any other things that stuck out to y'all from other games? Any big performances? Any concerns y'all saw from teams?
I want to talk about Auburn at Baylor because that was a Friday night game where Jackson Arnold looked very good as a runner, which is we'd already seen from him at Oklahoma when they beat Alabama, but we just didn't see the passing game. He only threw 17 passes, completed 11 of them for 108 yards, but he picked up the 137 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. I cannot wait for them to play a team that doesn't just give them the QB run game, because that's kind of what Baylor was doing, and forces Arnold to make passes, because that's kind of what we haven't seen from him yet. So that's what I want to see from him before I will start to be like, Jackson Arnold is the guy. He is living up to the former 5-star expectations he had. So that was a big takeaway from that game, is Baylor just let Arnold run all over them, which is what he was able to do successfully at Oklahoma. And then on the other side, Sawyer Robertson led a very effective offense, but the defense could just not get a stop. Robertson was 27 for 48 for 419 yards and 3 touchdowns. So it was two very different QB styles. You had the runner and then the guy who's just going to sling it. And unfortunately, the defense for Baylor couldn't get a stop. My other takeaway is the Utah-UCLA game. Or do any of y'all want to say anything about that real quick?
No, you summed up. We'll get into it in the buy and sell as well. So
Utah at UCLA was a really fun game last night. No, I'm sorry. I'm getting my games mixed up. It was an interesting game as far as Nico Imaliava is concerned, because Nico Imaliava was the entirety of that offense. That offense, looking at the stats, might be dysfunctional. They were 2-11 on third downs and averaged almost 7 yards to go on third down. That is way too high. You need to be getting yourself in 30 short situations, and they were not. Nico had 13 of UCLA's 28 rushing attempts, so he led them in rushing attempts and led them in rushing yards with 47. That is the second most rushing attempts of his career, behind their playoff game against Ohio State, but it was the 4th lowest yards per attempt of his career. So he was just forced to run, and it was not effective. He was not running effectively. And then on the Utah side, their offense was very fun to watch. They were 14 of 16 on third down and averaged under 3 yards to go on third down, 2.8. And then the quarterback and that offensive line were just really fun. JP, shout out you for finding them in the preview, because Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu were fantastic last night. UCLA could not stop that run game. The Utes had 2 guys average over 5 yards per carry with 10-plus carries. I mean, that is a very effective run game. If you've got multiple guys, it was the quarterback and I think running back 1. And then UCLA had 0 sacks. So the pass protection, fantastic, 0 sacks. The run push was just incredible. I mean, it was just won by that Utah offensive line. So that was really interesting.
Hey, Devin Dampier looked good too.
He did. He looked fantastic.
Led his team rushing yards as well as passing yards. So That's a promising thing to see going forward for Utah and their hopes of winning the Big 12.
Yeah.
I will say UCLA might be cheeks. So
I think
Very-
that's completely possible.
Like I said, there's-
very solid win from Utah,
Was
but
the-
that UCLA team
Let
just
me grab their win total real quick.
is not very talented.
Not at all.
And
Win total was 5.5 to begin the year. So
regardless of what you think of Nico Iamaliava, I think we know at this point he's not someone that's just going to absolutely carry a team.
Yeah.
That's at a
He's
clear
definitely going to
roster
need help.
deficit.
They're going to have to create
And they
some
don't
sort of
have
run
help.
game, and it's just not right there right now. And then I think my last takeaway is Boise State at South Florida. That was not a result I was expecting. Boise State had a couple huge problems. They fumbled the ball 5 times, and South Florida recovered 3 of them. And then the weirdest thing is they just kept stalling on drives. They had time of possession against USF was 36 minutes to 23 minutes. Like, they had the ball 13 more minutes than South Florida. But they had a 5-minute drive and a 3.5-minute drive that both resulted in fumbles and turnovers. You cannot have that happen. You can't keep the ball that long and then just give it back to them. And then South Florida, the big plays were deadly. They had 322 yards worth of big plays.
Not bad.
That is crazy. 4 of their scoring drives were 5 plays or less. I mean, Boise State just could not stop the big plays and force them to like check down or run the ball. It was just constantly getting destroyed for big stuff. So kind of a hard loss for Boise State because in our preview we talked about how to go to the playoffs as a G5 team. There's a possibility you can only have one loss, and it's going to be your P4 opponent. And Boise State still has to play Notre Dame. So now that, like, can a 2-loss Boise State, are they the potential G5 team? I don't know. We'll find out. It's a long way away. But a tough loss in week 1 for Boise State.
Yeah, I mean, I know JP wants to buy USF. That didn't actually make it into the buy or sell segment. But they just out-physicaled Boise State. Their quarterback, I don't know his name, but he was just running through people left and right. And so while I have cooled on Boise State a little bit, I honestly just came away more impressed with this USF team than anything. Although this is a very good group of 5 football team. Now they go play Florida and another Power 4 team in the next 2 weeks. I don't know who. So we'll see how good they really are after
USF, they play at Florida, at Miami.
Yeah, so we will see.
If they win both those, are they a top 10 team?
Well, yeah, I think so.
I'll give him that.
If they win those 2, then they win. Like, they need to win the American.
I'll let them into the
playoff.
SEC at that point.
But I think if for them,
Trade them for Bama since they're better.
I guess I would be kind of. Let me save what I'm going to say in the buy and sell segment for them, because what I'm going to say is what I'm going to say then.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Another takeaway, I think the takeaway for me is, contrary to popular belief, which I do want to go ahead and say on the record, I'm sorry. If anyone tailed me in my best bets this weekend, it was not great. We went 0-2-1. But me personally, I am 8-5 betting the spread for college football this season. I vow to give better best bets going forward, though, and best bets will continue to be a segment all year long. The biggest thing I'll say is, for the people that overreact, and not calling out you, I'm actually calling out my own friends.
Oh, I'm always going to give you a hard time about it, but the fact that you went 8-4,
8-5,
and missed on your 3 best bets, like, I'm going to give you a hard time, but that's still impressive.
And if South Carolina can cover, I'm 9-5. And if Notre Dame can cover as well, I'm 10-5. But for the people that overreact, and specifically my friends, if you're still here watching, if you're overreacting to 1 week of betting, then you don't need to be betting at all, because this is such a long game. The goal is to be through the season and be 54-50 and be up 3 units. That is how sports gambling works, and that's how it's always going to work. You're going to have hot weekends, cold weekends, mid weekends.
Sure.
So quit overreacting. Quit saying that, oh, you just don't know anything because you missed the first bet of the season. Who cares? Continue to stick with me if you want. Because I am a semi-professional sports gambler. I am one of the few that have made money doing it. So I would like to think I can continue to make money, and maybe we can also make some money together by tailing me going forward.
That's
I don't
that was very bold of you,
Andrew
Andrew.
McBride putting the student loan on the 3 best bets. I don't talk about it much, but I am technically a semi-professional gambler. Back when Underdog was a thing, I went up I put in, I 6x'd my money and then took it out. So
not bad.
yeah, it was one Sunday of a 5-leg parlay that I hit on a Saquon Barkley over on rush yards, and I was like, all right, bet, I guess I'm done.
Call it wraps, and then Underdog got banned in Mississippi. All right, we can move
buys
on
and sells
to the buys and sells, or the Technical Fowl stock market. First one I've got for y'all, which I feel like we're all going to be probably on the same page on this one, but Alabama still makes the college football playoffs. Buy or sell?
That is a huge sell for me. There are a couple of reasons. We talked about it earlier in our Alabama review, not preview, get my words mixed up. We haven't, this is our first, big review show, so I'm not used to saying review. I'm used to saying preview.
It's got me a couple times, too.
Alabama looked yesterday like they cannot stop the QB run, and some of the quarterbacks they are yet to face, Diego Pavia, Bo Prabula, who we saw yesterday can run the ball very well. Friday night, thank you.
No.
Thursday?
Thursday night.
Yeah. That's why I was about to say.
R.I.P. Sam Horn, by the way. That was a very long-lasting quarterback battle there.
Yeah. So Diego Pavia, Bo Prabula, Lenora Sellers, and John Mateer are all still on the schedule for Alabama. If I'm an Alabama fan and I saw what Tommy Castellanos just did, and I remember what we looked like last year against the QB run, I'm pretty scared. And then not only that, DeBoer is 2-4 on the road since arriving at Alabama. I didn't actually double check that. That was a tweet I saw, but I don't know how someone would lie about that and not get called out. So I'm going to assume that was correct.
Yep.
Should have fact checked it. Those four road games they still have on the schedule: at Georgia, at Missouri, rushing quarterback that I just mentioned, at South Carolina, rushing quarterback I just mentioned, and at Auburn, rushing quarterback. That's potentially 4 more losses. We're talking potentially, worst case scenario, a 7-5 Alabama team. I don't see them winning. I mean, they have to avoid losing. I see them losing at least 2 of those games. And so you're talking about another 9-3 Alabama. I don't see that team getting into the playoffs. So I am selling very hard right now.
JP?
I'm selling as well. I think they'll go 8-4 this year. I think they can pick up 2 wins, but week 4 I think is the swing of their season is playing at Georgia. Kalen DeBoer needs to win that game, I think, to continue momentum in the program, because are they going to lose that game? More than likely, and then they can pick up a few wins before they'll have to go to Cocktober and play South Carolina. But that is a huge statement game. They can't be embarrassed in that game whatsoever. But with the way they played against Florida State, and as high as I am on Georgia having them winning the SEC, I expect them to kind of get embarrassed again. I don't see how the things that were a problem yesterday are just going to be solved against Georgia. I can understand how they're going to be solved in 2 weeks against Wisconsin, but I don't know how they're going to be solved on the road, night game in Sanford against Georgia. I just don't expect it to happen. And Gunnar Stockton played really well but yesterday on the ground especially, and I think that's going to be, again, a threat against Alabama. So I'm selling.
I don't know why I said we're all going to agree, because I clearly am taking the bold call here. I'm buying still because I can't let go yet. They're my national championship team, and as bad as they looked week 1,
yeah,
I gotta back my horse for a little while longer and hope they somehow can turn this around. So I'm buying. Yeah,
and what I would say to that, Tucker, is I don't know what I would have said last year, because the 12-team playoff and the way that it runs was just unknown. And also, I will say Notre Dame didn't have an SEC schedule ahead of them, and Alabama does. I don't think Notre Dame has shown the same year-to-year dysfunction at stopping a running quarterback. Alabama has, and they still have a lot of rushing quarterbacks left to play, very talented guys. That's what I would say to that. I don't know what we would have said, but what gives you hope to buy Bama, Jack? I mean, talent is kind of all you can say, and the fact that you're a DeBoer guy since his Washington days.
Yeah, it's mainly talent. That team just has so many guys, and I'm just gonna choose to believe that even if they look broken, that they hit rock bottom
and bounce back,
and they build from here, because that is a possibility. That there's some hard looks in the mirror. Kalen DeBoer has to look at his balding head with his few wisps of hair and go, oh man, what have I done? And we go up from there and pull off a shocker at Georgia because honestly, Gunnar Stockton looked good to me, but I was still not very impressed with that offensive line overall. And so we'll see about them. But yeah, it's mainly just like they're my national championship pick. I'm going to back the horse for a little while longer.
This is coming from a booster at Alabama, one of the bigger boosters.
This tweet is so funny.
Players are walking around at 1 to 1:30 a.m. getting DoorDash deliveries of fast food the night before the game. He's seen players with random friends coming in and out of the hotel until 1 to 2 a.m. They couldn't get organized to leave the team hotel on time without confusion. That just kind of speaks to more of the lack.
That was via a burner. It was via a burner.
We have no validity to that
via
report.
A booster.
Yeah,
it has just as much.
Well, I
could
tweet something and say it was via a booster.
Well, I would like to believe that this is true because this is what is being shown on the field.
I agree with that.
Is just a lack of discipline, a lack of effort, a lack of
Johnny Manziel got wasted before every game and went crazy. So sometimes things
Baker
just
Mayfield
work.
As well.
Yeah, I get that's not the norm. But anyway, we can move on.
Yes.
I'm buying. Y'all two are selling. My next one, Cal's freshman QB JKS. I don't know if you've seen any tape from that game.
Did you
JP.
watch the tape for that game, JP?
I haven't.
He looks fantastic.
So you can't necessarily. You can go and buy or sell here if you want. Will be a freshman All-American.
Okay, hold up. I'm trying to think about other freshman quarterbacks out there.
So
Bryce Underwood.
Like Bryce Underwood.
Is All-American? Is it one or is it like an All-American team? How does that work? I can't remember.
I think the freshman All-American team is just one.
It's just 1, 2 quarterbacks make it.
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and buy. He looked phenomenal last night, and he's going to have all the opportunity in the world to put up stats at Cal.
Yeah.
So.
Because they're not going to have that same kind of run game.
It's already his
Michigan
team.
is. Yeah. He looked awesome. JP, like, as soon as we get off air.
It's very much an overreaction, but still, I'm buying.
Yeah. Go watch the highlights. Incredible. If y'all out there have not watched JKS.
JKS. I can't pronounce his name. So
I looked it up.
It's a long name.
People are calling him JKS, and we're going to roll with it.
Yep, I like that. I looked it up. I'll try and learn it at some point because that'd be a fun flex. Like me being able to spell Imaliava. Pretty proud of that.
Imaliava was a tough one to begin with, too. It just takes some time.
Yeah.
I would argue this one's a little tougher than Imaliava.
I agree. It has the hidden N, like Tungavaloa or whatever.
Sure. Tungavailoa.
He's a lefty, too, and I'm a sucker for a lefty quarterback.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it took NBA announcers like 5 years to yell Giannis Antetokounmpo, which I just butchered it right there.
Do you want to take two?
Mike Breen would go with like Antetokounmpo and Antetokounmpo and other stuff. Like it was bad. So
Andrew, that makes me so sad because everyone is talking about it. It's like
that was almost my buy or sell. Is will JKS be in a Cal uniform next season?
It's like the same. It's the same sadness that I get when people are talking about where will Tariq Skubal pitch. Like, will he pitch for the Yankees or the Dodgers next year? And I'm like, that's just so depressing to think. Like, why can't? Yeah.
It's the nature of the sport.
It is the nature of the sport. I'm sad that it is the nature of college sports. I have less of a problem being the nature of professional sports.
I don't think he will be. I think they'll start Keelan Russell next year. He's
Keelan
Russell. Apologies, I'm the butcher guy. So
you can't.
I expect
you can't
him
say
to start
names.
Keelan Russell.
I
next
can't
year,
remember anything.
He could go to an SEC school, surely.
Yeah.
I haven't watched any tape, but I'll go ahead and say that I'm buying because I sat here for a second and tried to think of another freshman starting quarterback outside of Bryce Underwood.
The Maryland.
That would make a good enough statement. Malik Washington, sure, but I'm gonna buy.
Cool.
Did you buy? I missed it if you did.
Yeah, I'm buying.
Okay, cool.
Looks fantastic. Andrew predicting the end of the world for Alabama. DeBoer gone, Keelan Russell gone. Bama's going to implode.
That'd be, I don't know. It's a possibility. Okay, next one. Auburn to make the college football playoff, buy or sell?
I am still selling. I have not seen enough from Jackson Arnold as a passer to think that he can lead that team to the college football playoff. They still play an SEC slate. SEC opponents, I just don't see them. I haven't seen enough to buy that yet. I don't like the hype of being like, he ran all over, like he just didn't throw the ball. And you have to do that against SEC opponents.
Sure.
He's going to have to be able to do that. And they have the weapons to do it. That was kind of I guess Baylor's defense just set it up that it was unnecessary and they could out-physical him. But if he can throw, he can be fantastic. I just haven't seen him throw.
Yeah, this is one, like, if you could just, like, hold, I would. But I'm not going to be the coward and be like, I'm just going to hold. I'll sell because I agree. I want to see more. There was nothing we saw Friday night that was like, oh, that's not good. Like, there was no really negatives from the game. But I still would just like to see more. So I'm going to sell for now.
Yeah, he threw for 108 yards, which is almost, in fact, I'm pretty sure it's double what he threw against Alabama last year. Running for 137 was impressive, but he's going to have to throw the ball for Auburn to make the playoff this year. And the schedule, like you said, Sanders, they're playing difficult teams all year. Now, this is a year they get to host the Iron Bowl, but Alabama is the worst team in college football, so that should be
tied for the worst team.
A free win. But they got some tough games at Oklahoma, at College Station. They still have to play Georgia. I just don't see there's an avenue for them to get to 9 wins, but then your 9 wins, your best win is hosting Alabama. I don't know if that would be enough because I think you're going to have more teams that are at 9 wins, 3 losses, especially in the SEC.
I agree.
So I'm going to sell.
Cool. Kansas State eked out a scary one against, was it North Dakota?
North Dakota, yeah.
They won 35 yesterday. Buy or sell them competing for the Big 12 title. Like when we get into November, they're still in contention.
Yeah.
Even if they don't necessarily have to make it for you to buy, but they're right there. They're within a game.
I think they'll be in contention. I think my biggest takeaway, and I got a little ahead of myself because I was like checking a bunch of scores at once and didn't realize there was still 2 minutes left. I thought they had lost, and that's when I texted and said it's crazy that they're 0-2 and still. Oh, I was driving. That's why I had a lot going on. They're 0-2 and still the exact same distance from a Big 12 championship they were 2 weeks ago. Because out of conference, if they had lost, it would have been out of conference, and then the Iowa State loss doesn't matter because they play a 10-game conference schedule, or Kansas State does. Not everybody does. So I'm still going to be buying it just because I think that they have had a long runway to kind of warm up, and I'm kind of betting on them improving and getting better and clicking. Blame it on jet lag coming back from Ireland and blame it on jet lag going to Ireland. I just don't. I'm not selling on them yet.
Sure.
There's no reason to not buy. Personally, I think they're still one of the better teams in the Big 12. That was a tough game to watch, I'm sure, if you're a Kansas State fan. The fact that like the building was still packed out at the end of a game against North Dakota is actually worse of a statement than you think because you'd hope you had blown them out and people could get home early.
Sure.
But that place was still packed, and it was like the building exploded in Manhattan when they scored that touchdown to take the lead late. North Dakota at one point late on that fourth quarter, that last drive for Kansas State had a 94.2% chance to win the game, according to ESPN.
Wow.
Dang.
Which is insane. But I'm going to agree with Cromie. I'm buying. There's no reason to put a ton of money on it because the stock is at an all-time low. And going forward, the games that were going to be question marks for them, I think they might feel better off, especially getting into those games. Baylor was kind of embarrassed a little bit by Auburn on Friday night. They'll have to go to Baylor later this year. Kansas didn't look as impressive as I thought they would, and I think Kansas is going to get beat pretty bad by Missouri this coming weekend, and that was a tough game for them. Utah was the only one that looked impressive outside of Texas Tech. That raises concern, but again, they can go 8-2, and they win a tiebreaker against a 7-2 Big 12 team and make the Big 12 title game. So I'm going to buy that they can compete for it, not that they're going to win it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and buy too, with the caveat that they have not looked nearly as good as I would hope for them to have it at this point in the season. But I'll go ahead and buy. Similar take here, Utah to compete for a Big 12 playoff spot.
Yeah, this stock is probably a little more expensive, or a lot more expensive right now. But I will still be buying just because of how that run offense looked yesterday. And like I said, that could be in part due to a bad UCLA team they were playing. But I will be betting on not Damon Williams.
Devin Dampier.
Devin Dampier, sorry. Devin Dampier. And
I would buy Damon Williams stock if you can, though, too. That's pretty good value.
No one's selling that. Everybody's they're holding. So that's
True.
not for sale, unfortunately. No, Devin Dampier and that offensive line and that run game, I'm going to buy stock on to compete.
I also will buy stock. I like their team a lot, but also just like how it kind of is a clash of style for a lot of other Big 12 teams. They're so physical up front, and I think that'll cause a lot of Big 12 teams problems, and so they'll be able to pick up some easy wins in that regard. So I'm going to buy.
What is it, competing and winning the Big 12?
Like, just to make the title game.
Oh, then I would buy because there was something we talked about in their preview as well. They host the 3 best teams in the Big 12 this year in Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas State, all at home. And Utah is notorious for having a really tough home environment. And they get a big win away from home against UCLA, I'm going to buy because I just don't see a world where they lose 2 of those games. And so I think they make the Big 12 title game pretty easily.
Huge. Okay, we have 2 group of 5 ones to wrap it up. First,
I also have another one for you that's P4, but we can do it.
Do the P4 one first then.
Makai Hughes, buying or selling?
I will sell. Actually, I kind of have to.
You have to.
I'm
buy.
locked in. Like
Yeah.
it was a long-term Makai Hughes investment, and he's not. He didn't. He played He fully healthy. Rushed for 2 times. Was
Yeah.
like running back 4.
For a little
carry.
context for the viewers, we are all in a college football keeper league, and it's limited to Big Ten and SEC teams because we don't want all 134 FBS teams available to draft. So Makai Hughes transfers in from Tulane into Oregon in the Big Ten. Jack picks him third overall.
Third overall.
And we as a group kind of like our league manager labeled Jack as a championship favorite going into the season after the draft. And then we're watching the game Saturday, and Jack is going, Makai Hughes hasn't touched the ball. He hasn't run. 5 other guys have rushed the ball. What's going on? And so then we were like, okay, well, maybe he's hurt. Maybe he's sick. And since it was a cupcake game, they just didn't want to push him in too early. And then Makai Hughes comes in late and gets 2 touches. And that was worst case scenario. So Jack is a little nervous. And we are nervous on his behalf as far as that might be one of the worst draft picks we've seen to date in this league.
I need to go watch Dan Lanning's presser and see if he mentioned him at all or someone asked him about it because he was supposed to be the back in that room. Even Oregon fans are confused by it. It's not like I missed something.
Yeah.
If I miss something, we all miss something. So that is tough.
Yeah. So you're forced to buy. I would sell because as someone who doesn't have my fantasy team, I would be selling stock on a guy who came in that highly touted and then didn't get a touch until the end of the game and touched the ball twice.
I'm going to buy.
Appreciate it. I'm really going to hope he
Can we get reasoning for that, JP?
I'm going to really hope he got in trouble or something like that.
2v1.
Oh, okay, cool.
Valid. Maybe just in a bit of a doghouse. He'll be back full force week
Andrew,
2.
what is the worst pick? I want to hear your thoughts for worst pick. Just because, okay, that's fair. It has the potential to be. There definitely have been worse picks, but because it's first round, it's a high profile pick. So that kind of, in my opinion, gives it some extra weight as far as it being a bad pick.
Not my best moment, but I'm not a historic
Tucker says he would
either.
sell Arizona State. I haven't watched the footage from that game, JP. Do you have thoughts on Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson? Tyson apparently had a fantastic game. Or is that right?
Yeah, Tyson had great numbers.
Yeah, I mean, great numbers. I have no idea what he did on the field.
Yeah,
but
I haven't been able to watch it.
I won't tell you until Thursday.
I think that's fair.
That's very fair.
JMU to be the group of 5 playoff representative. Buy or sell? Buy or sell, gentlemen?
I'm forced to buy because unfortunately Gata lost a tough one to Fresno State yesterday. J.C. French was getting compared to Shane Gillis. The Shane Gillis AI memes where it's like they were playing like Shane Gillis would kind of thing.
No.
Okay,
I don't.
you've never
Sorry,
seen those?
Coach.
Okay, well, not Shane, but J.C. French was getting compared to that, and he did not play well yesterday. And then, of course, Boise State, my group of 5 pick to make the playoff, was kind of upended by South Florida. I'm going to buy. I'm a big Dukes guy. JMU I had ranked to start the season, and I will continue to have them ranked. And I'll take them still why I feel like their stock is low. Because they only beat Weber State. So it's not like they've made a big statement yet.
They have a chance this upcoming Friday, though, against Louisville.
This Friday, as you said, they got a big game against Louisville. And then in 2 weeks, because there's a bye for whatever reason between the Louisville game and their Week 3 game, they'll go to Liberty. So boo the Flames, go Dukes.
This could flame out real fast after a couple of weeks, but I'm also going to buy. I love this team. I think they're one of the more talented group of 5 teams, and they just are consistent. Like I feel like I can trust them. So if I'm going to buy, I want a team I can trust.
Cool.
So did you buy or sell?
Oh, sorry. I was over here watching this football game and then also thinking about other stuff for next week's show. They thinking too much. I'm going to sell because I have picked UNLV, and therefore I don't want to own stock in 2 G5 teams. I don't believe in diversification when it comes to buying stock. I prefer to put all my eggs in one basket, so I'm going to keep them all on UNLV. 2-0 UNLV.
Sure. It's a little dicey, but sure. Last one, USF. Same question. USF, buy or sell to be the group of 5 playoff representative?
I'm going to buy. I thought they played really, really well. Byron Brown played as good as advertised to me, not necessarily to everyone else. People have kind of forgotten about him. But I thought he played outstanding against Boise State. Boise State was my group of 5 pick, and I still think they are the standard in the Mountain West, and they still have a great chance to win the Mountain West. And, of course, they did not play well in that game on Thursday, but I do think South Florida was a good team. I really considered, which I hate, this is what I hate about gambling, is I was about to put money on South Florida money line. But it doesn't matter because I didn't do it. But I'll buy as South Florida making the playoff. I think they've got 2 good chances in the next 2 weeks at Florida and at Miami to prove something to the committee down the road. If they're competitive kind of in both of those games, similar to the way Boise State was last year against Oregon, that could be a huge statement if they were to go 10-2 and win the American in being the group of 5 team over a team if UNLV went undefeated or even a Sun Belt team in James Madison. So they've got 2 great chances these next 2 weeks in hostile environments. But who knows really what Miami and Florida are yet. We're not. Florida played well. DJ Lagway played well, but Miami we'll see tonight. I'll buy.
I'm going to sell because as much as I was impressed with this team, I do think they're very good. I think they'll lose their next 2 games, and I think that'll be too much for even if they win the rest of their games. I'm not positive they would get in, and then that also means they have to win the rest of their games. And there are other quality teams in the American, so I'm going to sell.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is I don't have them winning either of those 2 games. You lose those 2, and then you have to win out because a 3-loss G5 team is not going to get in. Also, sorry, I'm watching the Dylan Stewart just got hurt. I'm watching that replay. That's exactly what I was going to say, is do like 2 losses in the next 2 weeks, and then they're probably going to end up dropping a 3rd game.
They're not. Their schedule, the only tough game they have is at Memphis in the American Conference and at Navy.
You're overlooking a game, I'm afraid.
I'm overlooking a game. Against what? South Carolina State? Rice?
Nope.
North Texas?
Nope. This should be obvious, man.
Oh, UTSA.
Yeah,
okay.
Go Roadrunners, man.
They do get to host UTSA, though.
Who else is it? Is Liberty the American?
No, they're in the Conference USA.
Liberty is the crown jewel of the Conference USA.
Who's the American front runner?
Tulane.
Tulane. So they'll have to play Tulane in the conference. Potentially have to play Tulane in the conference championship.
In theory.
I'm gonna sell.
Cool. Well, that's all we have for the show. Any other final thoughts before I wrap it up?
No, I would just, if you want to, go ahead and walk through what the rest of this week is going to look like. Because now we're about to go into what our
new show schedule,
regular schedule will look like going forward.
Yes. So we're going to have our first ever Tuesday show this upcoming Tuesday, which will normally be our NFL recap of the previous week. But since the NFL hasn't started yet, it's going to be our final preview show for the NFL, where we will pick who our Super Bowl champion is, who's going to make the playoffs. We'll give MVP, our MVP pick, stuff like that.
Probably spend 45 minutes on why the Cowboys are going under 500 after losing Micah Parsons.
Yeah. We'll get Andrew McBride to get a quote in for that one because I know he's got a lot to say. But, yeah, we're going to do that final preview so then we can roll into the season as it starts this week. Thursday, we will then preview Week 1 NFL games and Week 2 college football games.
Yep.
And then we'll be back the next Sunday to break down college football games from the weekend, and then be back the following Tuesday to break down the NFL games from the weekend. And it'll just be that cycle for all of fall, and I can't wait. It's going to be a ton of fun, a ton of football.
Yep, Thursday's previewing the weekend, Sunday college football, Tuesday NFL. It should be exciting. We're going to be doing a lot of work, doing all of that the entire season, and then we're also going to games on Saturdays, and I'll be going to state games, NFL games as well. We'll have boots on the ground, reports, stuff like that.
A lot of boots on the ground from JP. I'll typically have butt on couch. Will be my weekend.
Yeah.
But
we're excited. We can't wait. We're glad that y'all are with us now, and we hope that you stick with us as we hopefully grow a ton as we go on into these future months. Throw out some prayers for Sanders. A lot of content he's going to have to get out and post on both the TikTok and the YouTube. But
Yep. I'm excited, though. I really enjoy it. If you don't follow us on Twitter, go do that. I'm going to try and do more stuff on Twitter to, interact. I want y'all to say, I was thinking instead of having Jack pick the buy and sell, I should just be like, who should we buy and sell on this week?
that's kind of what I did in the group chat today.
Oh, true. Well, I'm going to, if you don't follow us on
it's
Twitter,
better to do it on Twitter.
I'm going to try and
we
push
didn't
that
have
out
time
more.
today.
I really want to I want y'all to have, I think it'd be cool to have fans have say in one college football game we preview for the upcoming week. So I'm going to just try and push that out on Twitter more. So if you don't follow us there. It should be really fun to get y'all more and more involved in the show. If you haven't, don't rank your top 25 yet because there are still games to be played, but the website is ready for week 2. So as soon as games wrap up tomorrow night, or if you don't think tomorrow night matters for your top 25, if you don't have TCU or UNC in there, you can rank after tonight's game, but it's ready to go. So I've already put mine in there. I will definitely edit it. I was just testing. So if you go in there, if you go in there and see my top 25, do not at me and tell me I'm a bozo because it is not my final. It was a test.
You'll have time to do that after the games tomorrow, I'm sure.
True.
Cool. That was a good call, previewing JP. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Shout out to everyone in the chat. You make the show a lot more fun. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back for y'all Tuesday to preview the NFL season.
Heck yeah.
Peace.
See ya.